can we just take a minute just to applaud me just for solving the tech problem there?
Yeah, that was quite remarkable. Yeah, well done, Glenn.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the lottery afterwards because something is aligned in the universe.
Must be something to do with those 7 planets lining up.
Have you been rearranging the universe as well?
Oh yeah.
I've told you not to move stuff in the solar system. But Steve, are you a multi-instrumentalist? Is that what you said? Or are you a string person? Or what are you musically?
A little bit. Well, I play bass. When I lived in Norwich for a long time, I was known as Steve the Bass. And so bass is the main thing that I like to do. I can hit the drums a bit. I can strum a guitar a bit. I'm not very good with keyboards. My granddad was a pianist, and he was fantastic. And I'd always wanted to do it, but just the hours that it takes is just horrid. And not being able to read music also a thing that's very fundamental with the piano. So if I could just swallow a pill and I could play, then I'd be over the moon. But the hours that it takes to sit there doing it, just haven't got around to it.
I have a friend who is basically a jazz pianist turned engineer, and he's really annoyed when I play the guitar. I mean, he's way better at the keyboard than I'm playing the guitar, but it's like, so when you are changing key, you just move the same pattern one band up and you just do the, God damn it, because of course there are some keys there, and then you have to do things with your fingers that's really not physically possible. So I think that put me off learning the piano. Of course, I would like to, but no, it takes too much time, too much hassle.
Yeah, I'd like to play saxophone. I think that always sounds, really, or trombone. But again, and I think that thing, because I remember when I first started learning to play, I had a bass that I bought off somebody for no money at all, and it was bowed and it wouldn't stay in tune, and so fighting with these cheap instruments, like, don't want to spend a lot of money on an instrument because you don't know if you're going to get on with it. So when you buy something cheap, but because it's cheap, it doesn't play well, and so you're almost guaranteed to not go on with it. I remember fighting on with that. But I think saxophone, that'd be nice.
Did you just decide one day, Steve, that you wanted to play bass, and then you just bought one? And then how did you go about learning yourself how to play it?
Well, I had
teaching yourself.
I bought this bass off Abbo. There's a kid called Abbo in Ipswich, and my mate Jimmy was playing drums, and so I just made something up and played along with him, and it just kind of stuck. It's just always been that way.
So you bought a bass and then you just played it. You didn't learn how to play it. You just played it.
just played it. Yeah. I did along the way. There's been a couple of people say, "Try doing this," or "What about doing that?" Or, no. I mean, reading scale books, chord books, doing stuff like that. I've been playing along with a radio, which apparently not many people do, but I always have. Just sort of sat and found the notes and made something up. But that's something my granddad couldn't do, because I remember I was about 17. I went to see him, and I took my bass, and I was over the moon to sit and jam with granddad. But his cataracts were so bad he couldn't read the music, and because he couldn't read the music, he just had nothing to play. There's nothing he could remember because it was all sight read, and he just sort of sat there in this awkward silence for quite some time, which was just really weird to me. I'd just sit and play, Odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
It always feels weird when I hear about bands, and it just seems like some of them just started playing in it. Oh, well, he played guitar and the other guy played drums, so then I sang. Okay, fine. And then there turns into this fantastic band.
Right.
Just for happenstance. Wasn't it Motley Crue where Nicky Six was supposed to steal a guitar from a shop, but he stole a bass instead because he couldn't tell them apart? So then he started playing bass. I don't know if I misremember that, but some stuff like that
Right.
that just it comes from happenstance that they start,
Yeah.
but because it must be different way of thinking suits different instruments better.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
thinking about the music and what part of the music that you must focus on. I think I would be a bass player if I were to play an instrument, because that's the part of the music other than the vocal lead, that I focus on. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, it
mean,
must be something like that.
you got a nice deep voice. You should be the singer, definitely.
Well, I have a good voice, but I have bad ears, I
Ah,
usually say, because I'm very easily influenced by, if we're I mean, singing in a choir, I have to stand beside someone who is confident in their voice and actually sings correctly, because if someone else is off key, then I tend to hang on to that instead of keeping the correct key, because
yeah.
it sounds off. So yeah.
I'm like that if somebody's singing harmony, but I drift to what it is that they're doing rather than keeping to my part. I can understand that.
Yeah.
I have this one friend, and we were together in one local review performance, and his role was to sing out of tune because it was a musical act, and he was like going to be out of tune and really bad to it. And it's just a testament to how good he is, because I always drift to the one who's closest. So in a choir, I could never be the second voice of anything, because I just latch on to the closest one who is singing louder than me. But he could like constantly sing a bit out of pitch the entire way, and how he can just keep that melody in his head, not being influenced about anyone else, that's a gift. So I mean, he's annoyingly good even when it's bad. That is.
You actually look kind of pissed off when you talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even do bad as good as him, and that pisses me off.
I think playing any of the stringed instruments is a gift. I mean, to me, it's like patting my head and rubbing my tummy at the same time. Yeah, two hands doing different things. I really can't. I can't do it. I cannot figure it out one little bit.
I mean, it is mostly practice at some point, but then again, you have to get over that doorstep, or the first mile, or whatever they call it. But I remember it was an epiphany. I saw an interview of David Gilmour in some music magazine at some point, and he said he couldn't play fast if it was to save his life. I mean, yes, he can play fast, but not like ridiculously. And some of of course, the riffs from heavy metal that I've tried at some point and just lost my. I mean, I will never achieve this. I can't even play guitar. And having someone of that magnitude saying that he couldn't play that kind of music because it wasn't really in him, that made me like, all right, it's good that he's saying that, because then I can feel bad about me being extremely more crappy than that. I'm not going to compare myself, but I mean, if I'm going to have a guilty pleasure, I like playing the bass, and of course, KJ, you could play the bass and sing. I mean, there are some famous bass player vocalists out there.
True, true.
Yeah, Susie Quattro,
Yeah,
Rear of the Year.
yeah. I mean, I haven't reflected on that. Maybe, yeah, maybe KJ is a contender.
Well, it is at high level.
True, true. But talking about stealing instruments, I really felt bad. I think it was in uni. I wanted to buy a bass, and then of course I found one at an online marketplace, and it's almost too good to be true. And then of course, yeah, I bought it, and they could actually deliver it because they were going to the same town a few weeks later. And it turned out the owner of the bass was a 15-year-old girl, and she was playing in like a punk band or something. So it wasn't. It was the wrong color, and her mother was there to drive her, and they said, well, and it's also, it has an issue with it. That's why we're selling it cheap, because it's a decent Morgan bass with active mics and everything. But yeah, it drains the battery, so it takes a day or two and it's empty. And like, I just had to ask, do you leave it with the plug in? Yeah. Yeah, because that's the switch. I mean, if you take the plug out, it breaks it. So this one works perfectly. So, I mean, yes, you're selling it cheap, but you don't have to. And they said, well, it's okay. And that was the money she needed to, together with some birthday money, to buy I think it was a black bass with skulls on it. So they were already in the pipeline of getting that. But so then I didn't feel so bad, but I did a very good deal on that bass, and it's been perfect ever since. I don't think I'll ever buy another one. So sometimes you can do good deals on a online marketplace and be honest. Who would have known? That's a good question then. It doesn't need to be an instrument. Have you made a deal that at some point seemed too good to be true, but it just turned out to be the stars aligning and it was just a decent deal?
No.
Oh, an honest answer there, yeah.
Has anybody had a decent deal out of you, Steve?
Yes, yeah. I bought a pair of walking boots off Facebook, and it was so I got suckered in by this advert, which had apparently been forwarded from a friend, and it was his discount on his walking boots, and they should have been 200 quid, and they were 60 quid, and I was like, oh, that's great. And I spent the money, and then saw and heard nothing for months, and it slowly dawned on me that, all right, I've been suckered. And then I got this package in the post from China, and I opened it up, and it was a silk scarf, this really floral silk scarf. And I was like, what the hell is this? And inside of it was also an invoice from customs. So it was this company in China, and apparently they do this really weird thing where, so they fraudulently advertise stuff and then just send you any old crap, so that then they can say, well, we've completed the contract, you bought something, we sent you something. So it becomes very difficult across the planet to be able to have a legal complaint with them. But I had this customs bill for about 35 quid. And I emailed them, and I said, look, this is what's happened. I said, this is a lot of money to me right now. Is there anything that we can do? And this lady was really kind. She came out, she said, forget it. We don't need to charge you anything. So, yeah, no. But I haven't had any good deals. That doesn't come my way.
But you are still wearing that scarf, though, to this day.
I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to own it.
Yeah, wear it as a bandana.
Exactly.
I think my lathe was a pretty good deal, to be fair. I was made up with that, the price I paid for that and what I got with it.
Yeah.
100 quid for a record power lathe, a few bits of oak and a few chisels. I thought that was a real steal, to be fair.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. And the guy knew all about what he was selling him. It wasn't like I was ripping him off or anything. It's just the price of second-hand lathes. You only had to then spend a further £300 on some decent tools to go with it.
And then the addiction started.
Yeah.
Now you can't stop.
And it turns out that he's just a front man for all the lathing equipment companies. So he's just on online marketplaces selling lathes cheap to people because all his friends is paying him because they get the revenue when you need to buy the tools. That's kind of brilliant idea when I think about it.
It's kind of like getting free software but having to buy their computer or the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah. I did think of another bad good deal, but I forgot it, so maybe it wasn't either. So
I can't remember having. either bad or extremely good. I think I'm pretty standard mediocre all over the board when it comes to deals. That's kind of sad, also.
Yeah. Then again, you are the victim of PostNord, so
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I remember now. I had to think about the scarf story. Well, I was going to say a few years ago, but it is a long time ago, in the early days of the internet. I found a guy in the United States of before Trump, and before, yeah, long time ago. He was selling brass or bronze, I'm not sure, barrels for cannons. And you just went in and you gave him the specifications. I want that one, and it ships it, because I always wanted one. Because I had a sailboat at the time, and I believe once you have a sailboat, you have to have a cannon. It's the pirate law.
Yeah.
And of course, I still don't have the tool to make the barrel. So I thought, but I can make the cradle. So I paid a fair bit of money for it back then, and today it would have been triple that, of course. And the weeks went, and then it was a half year, and then I started asking him, when is it coming? And yeah, soon. I have a bit of a backlog. And then I waited for a couple more months, and then just started to asking, what is happening? I mean, I've paid several $100s for something, and I don't hear anything. And he broke his arm and is struggling and whatnot. And at some point I just thought, all right, I lost this money, and there is no point in trying to. And he had a Hotmail account and a web page that looked like it was made in the 90s, so I did not have any hope of finding him on any other social media or trying to hassle him into. But it turns out, after 1.5 years, I got a package, and it was the barrel. And it turns out he was probably behind, and at some point he had an accident and with his arm, and probably some lathe and something. So he had to get an apprentice, and he had to teach him the ropes to get up to production speed again. So it turns out I wasn't screwed over. I mean, he was screwed over basically, and then but he actually caught up on everything that he has promised on. It just took him 1.5 years. Which is an amazing story today. So I have that barrel, the cannon and everything, and it took me 1.5 years to get it, but it's amazing piece of work.
How big is the cannon, Haavard?
I mean, do you really want? I think it's 40 centimeters long. So it's a teeny tiny one, and I think the barrel is like 5-6 kilos or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
what's the barrel? What's the barrel diameter on it?
I think it's 1 inch.
Okay.
Because he operated on some standard, so I think it's the same diameter as the big glass marbles, so you can put that in, or
sweet.
And then you have some larger ones that matches the diameters of golf balls. I think that was the largest, but then you would, for it not to be like a small stubby mortar, then you had to have the biggest thing you could make. So I haven't shot projectiles with it, but it is so sturdy that you could do that. But it's a lot of fun just stuffing it with black powder and some paper and putting a fuse to it and go make some smoke.
You haven't shot anything with it yet? Oh my goodness.
And this was also before YouTube, so I thought, should I make a video and make a new cradle, since I now have a CNC, because I could do a better job of that. But I mean, I made that by basically a hand drill and a rasp at some point, so it's kind of sentimental by this point. So I'm gonna keep it that way.
Me and Steve had a cannon barrel, would have definitely taken it fishing with us years ago.
No doubt. We would be firing bait out of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shooting fish with a cannon.
Yeah, there was people that were adapting Nerf guns, weren't they? So they could shoot boilies out of them for baiting. That always looked like
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
I think I'm the only person that's made a weapon for their bait boat, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, the catapult on the bait boat, that was brilliant.
Made a it's just spring powered. I think it's made out of an old steel rule, to be honest with you, and it's operated by a servo, so you can drive it across to the other bank and then just fire one single boilie at whoever's on that bank.
Yeah.
Me and my son had a hoot making that.
I mean, at some point, I always wanted to, and I've made a small one, like a potato gun.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm probably gonna postpone it a bit until the kids are a bit older because I want to bring them with on that project. But there is so much more you can shoot than just potatoes. So yeah, and of course, it's nice having that time to think of what one actually should do.
Yeah, I was watching a YouTube video actually just the other week, and the guy had made this little cannon, for want of a better word, but it shot like needles, but then with a very narrow cone of paper on the back, so they acted like really nice darts,
Yeah.
and they were penetrating 6mm and coming out. There's around 6mm plywood through this little handheld device he'd made. So that's got to be fun, hasn't it?
Yeah, those work great for blowguns as well.
Yes.
Just have a PVC pipe, and then you can cut that paper cone to the specific diameter, and just a wood screw works great through it, because then the threads hold it in. I think I saw that in an old Charles Bronson movie or something like that when I was young. I thought, ooh, that looks fun, and that's not good for a teenage boy to have that knowledge.
Maybe next time we're doing along, we should do a weapon along.
Oh, excellent.
But that's, I mean, it's so fascinating, and it's of course it's in infancy, and this was way before YouTube. And I remember all the shit that I did that went boom. I learned from older kids, or also my parents, and they also did not have YouTube or internet to get this knowledge, so it was usually trickled down by a chemistry or a physics teacher at school, which experimented, and then he just brought his students along, and then they just put two and two together, and what if we do like this? And I remember this was probably mid-90s. The first time I heard about this anarchist's handbook that you could find online, showing you how to make this and do that, and it was the holy grail, and I never stumbled upon it. And today it's a few months since I remembered it, and I just googled it, and yeah, you could find some, and it was, yes, it's really crappy. I mean, you could, if you go on YouTube today, you get step-by-step tutorials that's way past anything you can read in that. But of course, in the 90s, not having anything of that, just the thought of that one book, like what's the book called in English that the three nephews of Donald Duck, when they are in Boy Scouts or whatever they call it, they have this magnificent book that has all the answers to anything.
I don't know.
I don't know what it's called in English either.
All right, this needs a Google.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called in Norwegian.
Yeah, I think I found the anarchist handbook when I was searching the web. I said in the 90s, and it was, I mean, it's filled with like ASCII art of how to do a pipe bomb and stuff. And it is pretty bad. I think I have it printed out somewhere.
I now have the translation, and it is amazing. Junior Woodchuck's Guidebook and Reservoir of Inexhaustible Knowledge.
Wow.
That's a bloody brilliant title.
A mouthful, I would say.
Very much so.
It promises a lot, doesn't it? Definitely.
Yeah. But I mean, anything, technical, historical, they just, let's check the book. And yeah, it's an answer. And to me, I remember that, the Anarchist Handbook, that was that for everything I wanted to do as a 12-year-old. And here I am putting flamethrowers on my car. So I mean, there is someone could probably see a correlation there, but I don't.
Throw us great.
Oh, we forgot to talk about your video in the main episode. Are you happy with the results of it all, Haavard?
Yeah, very much so. And I even got a scheduled appointment at the workshop. Totally unrelated, but gonna treat the car well after what I put it through. But I have one of the flamethrower units, or whatever I should call them, it has a bit of a burned edge. But other than that, they're perfectly fine. So I took them apart and put them in a box. And of course, it's basically a plug and play flamethrower. So I just need to figure out some other things to use it for. So I'm not gonna take it apart anymore because, I'm gonna use that.
Like I said last week, I mean, you bought the chef's jacket. You really need to expand this cooking channel, I think.
Yeah,
I was thinking marshmallows. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of a how quick could you cook something sort of series.
Instant.
yeah.
Is
With
this
some rocket
quicker than a
fuel.
microwave?
Just use that rocket fuel as batter to make fish and chips, and just light it on fire and instant cook it.
That's a good idea, KJ.
Might not taste well, but yeah. I was thinking that flamethrower, you could put it on an RC car and just have barbecue on the go and try to chase some wild game or something like that.
I mean, it is. Someone did comment, how cool would that look going down the highway? And I was like, that. Yeah, but at some point you're crossing the threshold that someone is going to call someone and you're going to get arrested and fined heavily. And of course, the cooking channel is a nice idea as well, but I'm struggling. It's nice whatever you can do in your own, well, in the confinement of your own yard, but we live in a heavy forested area which gets kind of dry in the summertime. So in the small time window you have that you can do things outside and film, it's also very susceptible to forest fire. So do you want to be that YouTuber who set that Norwegian fire on fire?
Burn down your entire neighborhood as well.
Well,
I mean, it would give me exposure, that's for sure. But,
you see a lot of fire and pyrotechnics coming out of guitars, but I don't think anybody's seen it come out of a Strumstick. So if you could send it over here, and Steve, if you could get a fireproof suit.
Okay.
Rammstein Strumstick.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
nice.
we'll come and film that in your studio.
Yeah. You guys are simply guy playing bagpipes, doing AC/DC covers with all the flames coming out.
yeah.
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 I did have to go back and watch that video after we discussed it on the last episode, and I see he has some additional copper pipes running in parallel. So of course
fake.
I mean, I have all the parts, and I am building a bagpipe guitar. So should it have flames? Yes.
Yes.
But
Yes,
maybe not
absolutely.
pumping petrol through it.
No, I wouldn't want nozzles that are less lean, that didn't put. Yeah, it should a more finer spray would be nice. Gas is of course easier, maybe, but then I need a valve and a gas canister. That is, of course, it's just a few paychecks away. I mean, I have a I have a shopping cart at AliExpress where I just every month all right, I'll pick those for that project, and then every time I find something cool, I just add it to the shopping cart so I don't forget it. So I can put it there and we'll see what happens.
So it's a big wish list, just.
Yeah, basically. So I mean, I've seen all those posts online. I mean, I wouldn't tell if I won the lottery, but there would be signs. And I mean, if you see trucks coming up my road and they just said AliExpress on the side rather than DHL or the postal office, then somebody won the lottery.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, so it's a bit of it's nice having completed one project, and of course, except for the bagpipe guitar, it's nice. I've actually had a few days just sitting in the workshop, not filming anything, just tidying up, doing some light soldering, and just enjoying myself. Can one say that? Enjoying oneself in the workshop? Yeah.
Kind of Steve comes round and teaches you how to play an instrument, apparently.
Yeah.
But then you're enjoying someone else, to be fair.
Ever wanted to play in a band? No, thank you. I'm going to say
that. Try it, you might like it.
No.
Chicken.
So while we're here, I think I can do this. Do you want to see the awesome shelving unit that Glenn built for me?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can turn the camera around. Hang on. There's a danger as I unplug things, but it's just going to disappear.
It's not that awesome.
Oh, are you still there? Yes, you're still there. Well, yeah, see, because like, and as he was building it, I was like, "That's amazing, that's amazing," and it was like, if I were to have drilled that hole, then it would have split the wood, or if I had just screwed that up against the wall, it would have just fallen down. So yeah, so he came and built this for me. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
what
it's
you can't see on it.
It's got a fuck ton of weight up there as well. It's a ridiculous amount of speakers. So, yeah, that was really cool. What did it take you, Glenn? 10 minutes?
Yeah, half an hour.
Half an hour, yeah. Half an hour.
Best part of the day, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. I had to do something because I went to your studio and thought, how can anybody do anything in a space like this?
It's
nice little office nook.
Yeah, it's evolved nicely. When we first moved into the house, I think for the first 2 years, this was just full of packing boxes. I just couldn't get into it at all.
Ah, that room.
Yeah.
Steve's very fortunate, actually. He moved into this house and there's a very, very long garage at one end of the property, like probably 3 times the length of a normal garage, which is just full of stuff at the moment, isn't it, mate?
Mm-hmm.
But then in between the house and the garage is just this beautiful building, which Steve has claimed as his studio, which we would obviously have as a workshop. But it could actually be 2 stories high. You could have a printing room and lasers and stuff upstairs and a little recording studio, and then downstairs could just be machines. Not that I've thought about it.
Sounds like you're planning a hostile takeover.
Yeah. I think I'd probably go for the long garage, actually. That would be brilliant, because you could start off at the door with a saw table, then hit the planer thicknesser, then maybe hit the mitre saw for some dimensioning, and just work your way down to the bottom to the finishing room.
Right. You could have all the
and just have a
finishing
furnace
stuff
at the
on
end.
other side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I actually, I did that. Was it yesterday or the day before? I just went. Now that the snow is melting rapidly, and I went out with a tape measure, and I figured out the maximum dimension I could have on my separate dream workshop build, and of course went straight in and had a boring meeting at work. So just sitting and sketching on some paper, like trying to get the dimensions right. All right, 2 floors, welding, woodworking, and then of course office, studio, electronics. So I need 4 zones. Of course, you want a stair between those. Where should I place it to not have dust coming from one to the other? And of course, I don't want to go back into the house, so I need a toilet and a sink because you want to have running water in the workshop as well. And then I realized I'm good at sketching up the exterior, but when it comes to like the functional layout of a room, I just realized I'm crap at that. I can't really visualize. Of course, my workshop has its layout just out of necessity and the room available, and of course I can see other people's workshops, or I can go into an empty room and I can see like, okay, here I could do this and I could do that. But when you have the possibilities actually like moving walls yourself to best fit what you need,
Yeah.
then I'm totally blank because I don't know what I need, because up until now I've just dealt with what hand I've been given, like room wise. But when you can define that room, and that was really hard. So I'm thinking one thing is to making the sketch and having an architect make the proper building drawings, but fuck, I also need help with someone who does interiors.
I think maybe some movable interior walls might be the answer for you.
My Of course, it's not bigger. I think the maximum area I can use is 5 by 6 meters.
Right.
And then there is no problem building that middle floor in wooden beams with that span, um, because I figured out, and I need to talk to that when I'm having the meeting with the architect, if that is viable, because I don't want any load bearing walls, because then you can put up a wall and which is a divider, and
Yeah.
then and that's also a good thing, because if we move, I would like to build it to code and with the toilet and of course the sink and everything, so that it could be like a granny flat for someone, because that will help adding value to the property. And then of course you need to be able to put up a wall, so you could have a small bedroom and a small bathroom, and then of course you could have a downstairs living room, whatnot. So I have to have that in the back of my mind, so that the biggest, if you could have like no load bearing walls in the middle, then you could put up whatever, and then take it down again. So the only thing I need to think about is the placement, because I would like to have inside stairs so you don't have to go out to get in, because that is a pain in the ass in the wintertime. And of course, if it's going to be a granny flat later on in his life, not having internal stairs, it's a no. So yeah.
You sat talking about that, and it sounds magnificent, but the most magnificent thing to me is that I would love to build that.
Yeah.
That sounds like the most interesting part to me, to be honest with you. Would you build it yourself, or would you just get contractors in so you could get it done quickly?
I would have to get a contractor, because you have to dig out a slope to get the foundation down, and you need some gravel in the back and drainage and so on, and you need heavy equipment to do that. So I'm thinking also, to keep the soil back, you should have a concrete back wall, at least a couple of meters high, and then the rest could be wood. And I could do the wood part myself, and it would be fun doing it, but I just want to start making it into a workshop. So I think like a turnkey shell would be the optimal, and then of course you could just with OSB on the walls. That would be the perfect. Just walking into where all the windows and the OSB walls are there, and I can just start making the interior walls and so on. Because then you can move all your tools in, and you can start doing projects while you're fitting your workshop. But we are looking at a 2-year project, I think, because
Yeah.
by the time the snow is gone and you have to talk to someone and then I have to discuss with my wife what we really want to do with the house and actually figure out if this is where we're going to live for the next 10 plus years, which will be the, I mean, I'm not building something if I know we're going to move in 2 years. So
Have you started modeling all your big tools and that sort of thing in for the 3D printer, and then printing out a doll's house version of it so you can play around and get a feel for the dimensions and that sort of thing?
God damn it, that was a brilliant idea, that, because and now I'm using the old-fashioned millimeter paper for everything to scale for the walls and so on. But drawing in furniture, I'm like, how big is a table? But I do have some of my tools and tables and everything that I'm going to move in there, so I have the dimension of those. I just can, yeah, I'm making small 3D models so I can move around. That was bloody
And a
brilliant.
little small 3D hover as well. You can walk around and think, do I fit between this? Or
Yeah.
how big is it compared to me? And that sort of thing.
That's bloody brilliant. I can make. Yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick. Make a small model and then play with it.
So while we're talking about workshops and whatnot, Steve, your studio, that's your second studio you've had since I've known you.
Yeah.
And that one's slightly bigger than the last one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you like us? Do you dream of a bigger studio?
Oh yeah. Well, we're thinking of moving, and we took a look at a house which is just over the road. It's got an 11-meter long garage in it, and it's nearly as tall as this.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
11 meters by what?
Yeah. That's a pretty pertinent question. I don't have the answer to it.
11 meters by 1 meter, not so practical.
But certainly big enough to put a modern car in, So I don't know what.
Okay, so about 3
meters.
meters normally.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But you could definitely soundproof it. You could definitely have 2 rooms in it. And
Oh,
I'm
sweet.
a bit like you. I was like, oh, how would I arrange this? How would I sort this out? Because it would be nice to have a separate control room to the live room.
Yeah.
And the difficulty that we have is that the neighbours also have a similar building in conjunction, and it looks like they've turned theirs into living space. So the soundproofing would have to be really quite something in order to not piss off the neighbours. The other thing is the garden's quite big, so you could possibly, if the numbers worked out, we could afford to, could possibly put up another building in the garden. I was wondering about a storage container. One of you guys had a storage container, didn't you?
Yeah, that's brilliant, mate.
Yeah. Have you still got it? Did you use it, or did you sell it?
No, I got cold feet, so I sold it.
Right.
And I'm not sure if. I mean, it is a tiny space, and you want to do the insulation, of course, also for the condensation issue, but on also sound insulation. It's a bit narrow, so I think as a studio, it would have been maybe not the best solution.
Right.
Is it anything left when you soundproof it enough not to make it a big bell?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, you could, yeah. Right.
Oh, work it into. I mean, a studio should have its own sound, shouldn't it? So all the great artists wants to come and record in just that studio because it had that special sound. So maybe a shipping container could be a sound.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a bit like a cave.
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Maybe not. No, maybe not.
Maybe
But I mean,
build
bu-
maybe build one
building-
out of timber, Steve. I think that'll make a good YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a project, building a studio would be really interesting. A friend back from my old town, he plays in a band, and he's also or he worked as a sales manager in a local window making factory. And of course, at some point, he and the wife, they built themselves a new house. And once the shell was up, he just took me on a tour, just showing everything, and of course all the heating, all the electric was in like a central control room of the house because everything was thought out. And then of course he showed all the bedrooms and for the kids, and of course on their bedroom it's like, yeah, we have extra sound insulation, and then that is, he of course tapped the window and it was like proper dead, and it's like, yeah, nothing is coming in here or out for that
Or
matter.
out,
And then
right,
he
yeah.
had a grin on his
Yeah.
face. And then we went down, and of course they had a downstairs living room, and that was going to be where he hang out with his bandmates. Of course they play on the weekends, and then afterwards they go home and like have an after party there. And you don't want to disturb the rest of the family. And of course, you have a small studio there as well. So we had a small living room, and the two corner walls of that studio was also sound insulated glass towards that downstairs living room, and that itself was also soundproofed with an own entrance. So when they came home late at night, they could stumble into there and they can break out the instruments and play around and put up mics and record and anything. And the rest of the house would be none the wiser. And it's like, I asked him, I mean, how does all this insulation and windows cost? And he just said, well, I'm getting them at a discounted factory price. But yeah, it was a really nice setup, and sound insulation is. It's an interesting topic. I mean, doing that in this old house would be extremely difficult, but
Sounds like he was building a torture and murder room.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or a fun dungeon.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean that most studios could
True.
double as that. I think, depending on who you ask.
I need to do
Is
a
it
little bit
easy?
more research, but I think I found out that the so you can get drum booths, separate isolated drum booths, and they're soundproof, and a small one would set you back about £14,000.
Wow.
But those panels, I believe, are the same panels they use in cold stores. So if you were to buy those panels off eBay for cold store purposes, they cost you about £60 a panel. So the same. I'm really certain it's the same material. So in the context of cold storage, £60 a panel. In the context of soundproofing, £1,200
Wow.
a panel. So I need to just doubly make sure that I'm reading this right, because I think that could be an answer for it.
I mean, even if they're better, the proper sound ones, they can't be that many times better as the price is.
No,
I mean, you should be getting something decent for the low price version, at least.
yeah, certainly worth a go.
What are they using to deaden the sound in those panels? Is it just like a high density foam or something?
Yeah, I can't remember. What it's called. I was looking at it the other week when I was bored at work. It's a polycarbonate something or another. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. If someone wants to build a studio or a murder room,
Call Steve at
Yeah.
555.
I think that's the perfect end for the halftime.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Steve, for coming on. It's been
so
great
welcome.
having you.
Yeah, it'd been really nice to actually talk to you guys. Yeah.
Not just listen, be able to talk back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, likewise, and now we know that you exist as well. That's
Yeah.
that's bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
Who did you think the guy was on the end of my videos?
Just a random hobo you found and stuck the instrument in his hands.
Well, it's AI, you can never be too
Yeah, of
careful
course,
these days.
AI.
So yeah, I'm definitely AI.
AI Steve.
It sounds like a pirate. AI.
AI ho ho.
Oh,
Brilliant.
if I ever get an AI like helper for anything, it's going to be a pirate.
Sounds good. Well,
Brilliant.
have a good one, everyone.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.